I sold this failed YouTube channel for $22K, and today I'm going to explain why and how you can sell your channel, even if it's not in the YouTube Partner Program. This is the hardest problem to solve, because your channel worth is relative to who's doing the math. Firstly, let's look at if your channel is too small to be monetized or is popular but doesn't meet YouTube's monetization requirements. Your channel's value is highly subjective and will be determined by how easy it will be to get into the YouTube Partner Program, or how easy it will be to monetize the audience through things like affiliate programs, sponsorships, and channel memberships. And ideally, before selling your channel, you would have tested this so you have data to present to potential buyers on click-through and conversion rates, particularly for affiliate programs. But if you don't have any of that, you can still build a case that your channel is valuable by comparing it to similar channels in your niche that are better established and do run affiliate programs, as that is likely what the buyer is aiming for the future. So this is how the math works out. Take your average views per video, multiply that by a click-through rate percentage for hypothetical affiliate links, then multiply that by the percentage of actual conversions to sale, then multiply that by the affiliate percentage value of each conversion, and then that is how valuable your channel is on a per video basis. So if you scale that up for however many videos you post a month, you can see how much your monthly revenue could be in theory. But if your channel is monetized, then firstly you want to take an average of your channel's earnings over the last 3 months, as this is an indication of the current state of your channel's performance. However, because YouTube is cyclical, you need to adjust this figure in terms of earning variation due to advertising season spend, as in the second and fourth quarter you earn disproportionately more revenue than in Q1 and Q2. So depending on what time of year you're using for your 3-month sample, you should either scale this up or down with your revenue figure to determine a yearly average. Then you want to consider how likely your channel is to get demonetized. Now this is really easy to determine, as you can simply refer to YouTube's monetization guidelines and use common sense, i.e., am I adhering to this policy framework? This is an important consideration, as the buyer wants comfort that the channel will keep earning money in the future. Next, you need to assess the longevity of your channel, which you can do by determining if your audience maintains attention on a broad range of topics, which mitigates against audience fatigue, and by looking into whether your niche is growing or shrinking in interest. This can be done through a combination of Google Trends data and YouTube viewer data both on your channel and competitors. For your YouTube channel, look to see if your new viewers line is above your returning viewers line. If it is, your channel is still growing and gaining an audience, which is a good sign for its future. Then, if the returning viewers line is maintaining or increasing, that shows you're retaining views from video to video, showing the longevity of viewership interest in your content. These points give you more ammunition into arguing a higher revenue or earnings multiple when negotiating with potential buyers. So to calculate your channel's valuation, take the 3-month average you previously calculated, divide it into 3, this gives you a monthly view, and then multiply it out by the number of months you think your channel is worth, scaling up and down depending on each factor like monetization risk and longevity. If you think the channel has long legs and is low risk, this might be as high as 24 months revenue multiple. Any more than that's probably unrealistic due to the volatility of YouTube, and any less than 6 months is probably not worth anyone's time. Sidebar here, you may have noticed that I haven't mentioned how many subscribers you have as a factor, and that's because today YouTube does not care about subscriber count when it comes to recommending people's videos. It's purely focused on the engagement metrics on recent videos on your channel. Therefore, your subscriber count has essentially zero value from the algorithm's perspective. Although, some buyers may be mistaken into thinking it's important, so a bigger number is generally better when it comes to selling your channel. If you have other revenue sources from your channel, such as relationships with sponsors and affiliates, these can be valued in a similar way to ad revenue, assuming you have a strong track record of booking them month to month. It's worth mentioning that one of the key roadblocks to selling your channel is that if it's fully self-branded and personalized, then the sudden change of on-screen talent will make viewers disappear. This is why when celebrities sell their own brands, such as Ryan Reynolds selling Aviation Gin, he stayed on as their brand ambassador, as for marketing efforts, he's essential for the brand. It's interesting because most viewers don't realize when there's an underlying change in ownership. For example, did you know that the famous fashion designer Tom Ford no longer owns his own brand called Tom Ford? See what I mean? Consumers only realize there's a change in ownership when the thing they're buying or consuming is noticeably different. Finding a buyer for your YouTube channel is easier than it sounds. In the YouTube creator space, there's a lot of money and a lot of keen entrepreneurs looking to spend excess cash flow on channels with high growth potential. The easiest route here is to identify existing channels in your niche and then email those creators mentioning your channel is for sale while sharing a few high-level analytics and also giving them comfort on how you would manage the transaction, since right now you're just a stranger on the internet and a massive red flag until proven otherwise. The safest way to sell your channel is via contract and escrow agreement, the contract being a legal agreement that defines the asset being sold and explains the transfer of ownership and payment methodology. And escrow is a service where the money used to buy the channel you are selling first gets transferred to a neutral third party, such as a bank or well-known escrow provider, who holds onto the money and the asset being sold until the physical transfer of ownership takes place. This provides both parties with comfort that they're not being tricked and makes it impossible to suddenly back out of the deal. Over the last 5 years of scaling YouTube channels, I've sold 5 channels for the following reasons. The first one being dwindling views. If you study YouTube channels carefully, they follow a skewed, elongated bell curve of performance. First, there's a quiet period which is followed by explosive growth, then it settles down into the niche's core audience, before your channel tapers off into your diehard fans due to audience fatigue in that kind of content. There are seemingly occasional exceptions to this rule, for example MrBeast, however perhaps his channel's time horizon is simply longer so we haven't seen the bell curve take full effect. All of the channels I've sold are identified as being just beyond the peak of performance, with no future prospect for improvement, as any shift away from the original content style landed poorly on a very niche down audience base. However, given these channels were only just past their peak of performance, this meant that potential buyers would look at the most recent performance, extrapolate and potentially overestimate future performance, which essentially meant that I could sell the channel for a premium to its value, aka its future cash flows. This is by no means an exact science, so either the buyer or seller could get this forecast wrong, and that's essentially where the risk lies. And the other reason was tax. When I sold this channel for 22k, I was in the middle of transitioning from a lower to higher income tax band in the UK, which meant that if I kept the channel into the next tax year, I'd be paying a higher percentage of channel profits in tax than in the current year. Therefore, if I sold it in the current year and locked in that profit, I would pay significantly less tax on it. I could also in theory argue that the sale of a channel is the sale of a digital asset, and that would come under capital gains in the UK, not just income tax, which is great as that's a much lower rate of tax. If you want my input on whether you should sell your channel, comment sell below and give me some background on why you want to sell it.